Good evening, everyone. Well, actually, good afternoon. Sorry. my name my name is Ryan McCarthy. I am your host of Around for the Weekend. Welcome to Around for the Weekend. As always, it's powered by Belly Up Sports. Check out all of our stuff at bellyupsports.com. It's an early edition of Around for the Weekend, and there's a couple things I wanted to talk about today. If you missed out on if you didn't see the tweet, what I'm basically going to talk about tonight, I'm going to talk about a few things. A couple of them being NFL related, a couple of them being NHL related, and one personal announcement about the future of the show that I kind of alluded to this past week on Twitter. So let's get going. As always, you're always asking me what. Well, I'm asking myself. So, what you're drinking? Well, right now I'm just drinking iced tea. I'm going to a friend's house. We're going to drink beer, maybe smoke cigars a little bit later tonight. But I just drinking some iced tea, in a Major League Baseball cup. So, refreshing. All right. So as I teased a little bit on the Twitter account, let me go ahead and it's going to be a quick hitter, short show tonight, relatively short show tonight. So I'll try to keep it within half an hour. Let's talk about the NFL schedule release. And the NFL schedule released this past Wednesday. The one thing I'm kind of, I wouldn't say mad about, but just kind of like, why do you do this? Is that in the daytime, early in the daytime, the teams release their week one opponent. And usually it's, I don't know, it's just a weird thing. Like with the NFL, sorry, just going to move this right over here real quick. Apologies. Actually, it's a little too bright. And now it's down. Now it's up. Darn it. Okay. Sorry. So some adjustment here, last minute adjustments. All right. So the one thing I kind of get upset about is that teams are allowed to release their week one opponent. And they do that usually in the morning, like around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And then throughout the day, you see reports of the league schedule before the NFL and ESPN and everybody who's involved puts together the live show to release the actual schedule. And it's like, just put it out there early in the morning. Okay, so put the entire schedule. If you put up this schedule earlier in the morning, just put the entire schedule in the morning, discuss it at night. That way you avoid the spoilers, you avoid all the hype, the hoop-de-doo about releasing the schedule. When you know people are going to try to leak it, whether it be a journalist or some sort of rogue channel that a source leaks the schedule from, and that way it's just avoidable, and you just break it down that night. So release the entire schedule during the day, at night discuss it. But looking at the schedule, I haven't had full chance to look at the entire schedule. The only schedule I've looked at is my New York Jets. I'll actually read about this weekend on bellyupsports.com. But there's some pretty notable matches during week one and during the year. Now, obviously, the schedule is going to start on Thursday. So we're scheduled Thursday, September 9th. Tampa Bay is going to raise their championship banner at Raymond James Stadium. They play Dallas because Dak Prescott's coming back. He's got that fat new contract. Some notable games here: Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Chargers at Washington. Cleveland at Kansas City. It's going to be that's the 4:25 main game on CBS that day. Miami, New England start right off the bat with the AFC East schedule. Green Bay at New Orleans. Bears at Rams. The Monday night matchup is only. This is curious. I'm only seeing there's only one matchup on Monday night this year in week one, which is kind of curious to see. So Baltimore at Las Vegas. Then we go to week two. There's some pretty significant, and I'll go over the significant matchups. Rams at Colts, that's a pretty big matchup. Buffalo at Miami. New England at New York at the Jets. I think it's a pretty solid matchup. New Orleans at Carolina. I want to see how Sam Darnold, now that he's a Panther, try to see if I can handle the Saints defense. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. It's a pretty big matchup there, I think. Dallas at the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be one of those teams that can contend for a playoff spot this year. Tennessee at Seattle. Kansas City, Baltimore. That's the night game. Detroit, Green Bay on Monday night. Yeah, so going through the schedule, it's going to be now. I'm not one of those types that breaks down the schedule, looks at the schedule, and says, "Hey, this is going to be the great matchup," and who this team's got it easy and this team's got it hard. That's not a big fan of that, but it's going to be interesting to see. But no, I'm looking at the schedule. It's going to be tough to gauge this year in terms of how many teams the over under for at least for me the over under for wins. I know the people who are going to have the toughest are the first year coaches, the Urban Meyers, the Robert Salas, Arthur Smith, and who's a head coach in. Dan Campbell. I was trying to think of who the new coach was in Detroit. Instead of getting the usual 4-game schedule in the preseason, you now have only 3 preseason games, and you have 17 weeks. So it's going to be tough for, I think, the first-year coaches to figure it out. It's going to be, and there's 2 London games. So the Jets are playing Atlanta in week 4, I want to say. Nope, week 5. I apologize. Yeah, so Jets play Atlanta at 9:30 a.m. at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. So that'll be fun for my Jets. And then I guess the Jaguars are playing a London game as well because both teams seem to have connections, or their owners have connections with with England. I know Woody Johnson was an ambassador to the United States, to the United Kingdom under the Trump administration, and Shahir Khan, he was born and raised in London. He owns the Jaguars, so it's going to be that'll be a fun trip for both of those teams, I suspect, because they both get bye weeks after the week after. But look at the schedule. I mean, like I said, I think the first year head coaches are going to have the toughest time. I mean, they'll say the press thing where they say, oh, no, this is going to be we're going to treat it the same way as we would a 16-game schedule or whatnot. But you got one extra game to figure out your team. It's going to be regular season. It could mean playoff implications, or whether or not you solidify yourself as a playoff team, or if it puts you in the top 10 puts you in the top 15 for top 15 or 16 for a draft pick. So for top draft pick. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be an interesting year. It's fun. It's gonna be fun. I know there's gonna be fans in the stands. Thankfully, hopefully people getting vaccinated and us getting establishing herd immunity. I'm no scientist, but figuring out this COVID thing was kind of scary for last year. But next year we'll have, the next season we'll have fans in the stands. We'll have hopefully full stadiums, and it's going to be fun to see people back in the stands cheering their team on or booing them, depending on which city you're in. And yeah, I'm excited. It's just one more step towards, I guess you could say, getting back to normal. So yeah, I'm excited for the schedule release. I just wish they would just be more. They'd be more tactical. The NFL would be more tactical in how they release their schedule and not just tease one game early in the morning and then say, hey, watch the rest of our special, when people are going to try to leak the rest of the schedule. So that's just me. I'm just being not so much grumpy. I'm just being contrarian, I guess you could say. Okay. So next, I just want to say a quick thing about the Aaron Rodgers saga. Now it's escalated to the point where I guess you could say it's gotten to the point where Rodgers has now said that he doesn't want to be in Green Bay anymore. Hold on, be right back. All right, sorry about that. Tag along, woke up from his nap and started chewing plastic, so I had to feed him. I apologize for that. Yeah, so the Aaron Rodgers saga. I was watching Rod Peterson this afternoon, and he was talking about how I guess the breaking news is now the newest development in the Aaron Rodgers saga is that he said he won't play next season if it means he's going to stay a Green Bay Packer. That's a bad decision. I mean, I don't live his life. You know, he's an NFL quarterback. He's been in the league for a long time. He's one of the elite quarterbacks. He's won a Super Bowl. But to come out and say that he would be willing to legitimately stay out 1 year and not play for the Packers would be devastating because he's 38 years old, and 1 year off, which would mean that he would come back when he's 40 years old. And someone who's in his 40s, I can tell you their body's not the same as it was when you're 25 years old. So it's going to take a long time to recover. You get more aches and pains. Injuries take a little bit longer to heal, but it would be a big mistake. It would be a big mistake. And I say if I'm the Green Bay Packers right now, if I'm the GM of the Green Bay Packers right now, I'm trying to find my way to make my quarterback happy and send him off to a team that he wants to go to. Whether it be Denver, whether it be Seattle, whether it be Las Vegas, whether it be not Seattle, whether it be Las Vegas or San Francisco. If I'm not mistaken, Nevada doesn't have state income tax. San Francisco is near his home. I guess he grew up in the Bay Area. He went to Cal Berkeley, and I don't know why Denver's so appealing, other than the fact that the Broncos haven't had a legit quarterback since Peyton Manning. So, it's up to it's the Packers' move right now, and Matt LaFleur has said that he wants in the worst way to keep Aaron Rodgers a Packer. I doubt that's going to happen. I think he's gone. I think like I said, I think the Packers are going to try to find a way to accommodate Rodgers, make sure that he's a place where he's happy. And I think the whole thing started last year when they drafted oh gosh, can't remember his name now. Jordan Love. Oh my gosh. My memory is just gone. See, when you're in your 40s, things start to happen when you other things start to happen that it kind of go away. But yeah, when they drafted Jordan Love and they brought in Blake Bortles, I'm sitting there going, wow. All right, yeah, this is definitely Aaron Rodgers is definitely getting Brett Favre here. So I think it's going to take a lot to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. I think it'll cost the team willing to trade for him at least a second round pick, if not a first round pick, maybe a combination of a 1 and a 3. So, here's Tyler. Whoa, or not. Hi, bud. So he's gonna come on and say hi. There he is. Nope, he's gone. He's gone up top. So So yeah, I think this whole thing started when Jordan Love was drafted in last year's draft. The Packers always seem to have a contingency plan. First, it started with Brett Favre. They draft Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sits for a couple seasons. Favre gets traded to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers comes in, picks things up where Favre left off. And now Aaron Rodgers is getting a little older, looking for a new quarterback as a contingency plan for the future quarterback. They draft Jordan Love. And I think Aaron Rodgers got a little bit, obviously I'm not speaking on his behalf, but I think when you're a quarterback for so long or you play for so long with an organization, and you command a certain amount of respect, and then for someone to draft someone so high that will basically be your replacement, it does hurt a little bit, and I would get mad. I'd be the same way, but this is how the Packers work. This is how the Packers organization has worked over the last 20 years. It's next man up. It's you draft your predecessor. You draft you draft the person who's going to take over, and you draft the person who's going to take over for you and see how they succeed, or see whether they succeed or whether they fail. So, the Aaron Rodgers saga, I think Packers fans hope it comes to an end. For them, it might end sadly because they don't want to see their quarterback go. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. All right. That's done. Actually, before I go on, let me go ahead and give you a word from one of our sponsors here at Belly Up Sports. And that is going to be Symbol. Wall Street meets sports gambling in this innovative app. Symbol brings the fun of being able to play for the long term by purchasing, selling, and trading stocks of your teams. When your teams win, you win a payout. When they lose, you don't. The value of your team's shares is all that matters and is easy to use. Just download the Symbol app on your Play Store, which is Google Play, the Google Play Store, and use the promo code BellyUpFantasy for a $10 deposit bonus of at least $10 or more. Join the fun in investing in your team for the long haul, where the sportsbook edge is put into your hands as the player. For the latest and most fun in sports gambling, download Symbol, and again, use promo code BellyUpFantasy for your $10 deposit today. So apparently it's only available right now on Google Play. Hopefully they come up with an iOS because I have an iPhone. All right. So let's move on to the Stanley Cup Playoffs. I have my first round predictions all set. Let's going to just take a look at the bracket in the East Division. Get the Penguins facing the Islanders. 2 years ago, the Islanders swept the Penguins on their way to the Eastern Conference, I believe, a semifinal when they got beat by Columbus. Excuse me. It's going to be a fun series. I think it's going to be a fun series. I think the Islanders take it in 7. Barry Trotz has. I mean, the Islanders were in first place for a tick in the regular season. I believe they're in April. Kind of slowed down a bit, but I think they got enough pieces to move on to the next round. I think the speed's going to be concerning for the Islanders. Penguins are a very fast team. That's how they won the number 1 seed. They did it with their speed. The one thing I have concern about is the Penguins' record at home is just they were almost unstoppable at home. So, but I think the Islanders have a lot of experience to have their number in the playoffs. It's going to be a 7-game series. It's going to be very tightly contested. I think, but I think the Islanders will take this one. I think they have the better goaltending with Semyon Varlamov, who's been really good this year. He's a Vezina. I believe he's going to be a Vezina candidate, but he's got a capable backup. So it's going to be interesting to see the series and see how Sidney Crosby deals with some of the Islanders. But I think it's going to be. I think a lot of people are writing off the Islanders. That's just why I'm giving them the edge, just because a lot of people just seem to write them off, and I think the Islanders will take it in 7. Next matchup. Capitals and Bruins. This is going to be a fun series because the one thing I'm hoping to see is the 2 most hated players in the NHL, Tom Wilson and Marchand. Marchand. Brad Marchand go against each other to see who will piss off the other one the most. And whoever does that is going to get the edge. I think they split the series this season. Both went 4-4 in 8 games. And I just think the Capitals have more of an edge in scoring and scoring-wise. I think they'll win this game. I think they'll win this series in 6. But it's just going to be fun to see Marchand versus Wilson. Wilson kind of towers over Marchand, but Boston's team. Boston. I feel like Boston's win looks starting to close just a scotch, and they have been. This is a veteran group that've been together for so long, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they perform in this playoff because they've been together for so long, and I just think the window's starting to close, and I think Washington will be more than happy to close it for them, and it'll be kind of a sweet. Not so much revenge, but I guess a sweet, kind of bittersweet moment for Zdeno Chara because he'll knock out his old team in the first round. All right, Central Division, Carolina, Nashville. This is going to be a really fun series because the final game against the final game of this season was for each team was against each other, and Nashville shut out Carolina. They absolutely blew them out of the water. Now. You can see that because Carolina rested their best players to rest up for the first round. I just think because Nashville's been a really good team for the last month and a half, and they come out of nowhere after a slow start. They got everything put together, and they jumped up in the central standings to capture the number 4 seed. Carolina, though, they're deep. They run deep. They've got 2 steady goaltenders. In case one falls, the other one picks them up. I guess it's going to be a tough one, but I'm going to go with Carolina in 7. But it's going to be a fun series to watch. I'm looking forward to watching this series. This will be fun. Panthers and Tampa Bay, number 2 Panthers, number 3 Lightning. The Panthers are one of those teams that just came out of nowhere. They just came out of nowhere. And Joe Quenneville, outstanding coach. Outstanding personnel guy. He knows how to shuffle. He knows which lines have chemistry. He has good goaltending. His defense is solid. Tampa Bay's got that championship edge, though. So, I don't know. They've been kind of up and down with their health this year. These 2 teams met in the last couple of times during the regular season. Florida's been owning Florida's been owning the Lightning for the last couple of games, but I think Tampa Bay has a lot of. I think the championship edge comes through. I think Tampa Bay is going to take this one in 6. It's just too much veteran leadership, too much talent on that team. That it was a close race between 1, 2, and 3 in the Central this year. But I just think Tampa Bay has too much championship caliber. I think they have the edge in this one. I'm going to take them in 6. I mean, Florida, a great season for them. I just think it's going to come to an end. They don't have the experience, the playoff chops, or the experience to beat Tampa Bay. I mean, when was the last time you saw Florida get out of the first round of the playoffs? I can't even answer that question. I know a lot of things about hockey. So Tampa Bay, I think I'm going to take that. I'm going to take Tampa Bay in 6. North Division. Toronto Maple Leafs, who one of those surprise stories of this season, they're facing the Montreal Canadiens in the first round. Let's face it. Let's just face it. Toronto has size. They have speed. They have more scoring. Goaltending, shaky. But they're all right. Jack Campbell's a decent goaltender. Is a good enough goaltender. I think he'll carry them out of the first round. I think the Maple Leafs take it in. I think they take it in 5. Love Montreal. Love their pluck. Love the fact that they made it this far. But getting people back like Brendan Gallagher, he's coming back now. Whether or not Carey Price comes back is gonna tell you whether or not the Canadiens take it deeper than 5. I think if Carey Price does come back, I guess he's been in concussion protocol for quite a while. He's been recovering from concussion for a little while. It's taking a little bit longer to heal, but unless Jake Allen plays on top of stands on his head, or Caden Primo comes in, if Jake Allen gets hurt, he plays on his head, I think this series goes no more than 5 games. Because I think, like I said, Toronto's too big, they're too fast, they got too much scoring for the Habs to handle. Edmonton and Winnipeg. Winnipeg is literally limping into this into this playoff series. Many thought them could be they could have been a dark horse contender against Toronto. They were neck and neck with Toronto for the number 1 spot in the North for a better part of March. And all of a sudden, April comes around and everything just falls apart. Connor Hellebuck can't stop a puck from going in the back of the net. Nikolai Ehlers, he gets hurt. But the thing is, it's the playoffs are a new season. That being said, Edmonton is the best player in the world right now with Connor McDavid, who has scored, who had over 100 points in 56 games this year. That's a ridiculous stretch. Now, granted, again, he's playing the same 7 teams. He's playing the same 7 teams this season, but regardless, that's a really phenomenal feat to score over 100 points in 56 games. That's ridiculous. But Edmonton has more than Connor McDavid. They've got Leon Draisaitl. Last year, their goaltending didn't hold up, and they were beaten in the qualifying round. I don't see this happening in the first round this year. I think their goaltending will hold up with Mike Smith in net. Their defense is much better with Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse and the back line. They can score goals. They can score a lot of goals. Whether or not Winnipeg can stop them, that's going to depend on whether or not they get key pieces back. Is Nikolai Ehlers coming back? We don't know. Is Connor Hellebuck? Now we know him as he won the Vezina last year. Can he hold up as in the Barton? Can he stop a puck? Winnipeg's been kind of on the downslide. Edmonton's kind of been building upward momentum. Playoffs are a new series. The playoffs are a new animal, but I'm going to go with the Edmonton Oilers in 6 games, and they'll meet Toronto in the next round. And Toronto has owned the Oilers all year this past season. All right, so go to the West Division. Colorado, President's Trophy winner. They're facing the St. Louis Blues in the 1-4 matchup. I think I'm taking Colorado. St. Louis has got a lot of guys who stuck around from the 2019 Cup winning team, but Colorado is just, they're too good. Colorado's too good. So I think I'm taking Colorado in 5 in that series. And then finally, our final matchup, Vegas, Minnesota. This is going to be another one of those fun series to watch. This is going to be one of those fun series to watch because for the last 2 months of the season, Vegas, Colorado, and Minnesota have been neck and neck. Have been neck and neck for the number 1 spot in the West. And it's very key because, and what's interesting is that all 3 of these teams, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, all 3 of these teams have 20 plus wins at home this year in the standings. And home ice is such a big thing. And Vegas won the 2 seed. And they're only the 2 seed by a hair. Colorado wound up having less losses than the Knights did, but I think home ice is going to be a huge advantage for Vegas. They had the home ice advantage. Minnesota came out was a very surprising team this year. They're a very fast team. They can score goals in bunches. They have good enough goaltending to take them far, but I think Vegas has too much star power, and they have too much playoff experience, and they have better goaltending with Marc-Andre Fleury. So I'm taking Vegas in 7 in this particular round. So just going to recap real quick. Those are my predictions in the East. Sorry, the Mass Mutual East. I'm taking the Islanders in 7 against the Penguins. I'm taking the Capitals in 6 over the Bruins. In the Discover Central, I'm taking Carolina in 7 over the Predators. I'm taking the Lightning in 6 over the Panthers. In the Scotia North, I'm taking the Maple Leafs in 5 over Montreal. And I'm taking the Oilers in 6 over Winnipeg. And lastly, in the Honda West, I'm taking Colorado in 5 over St. Louis. And Vegas in 7 over Minnesota. Now, last thing before I go to my announcement, let's talk about this Leafs-Jets game that's going to be happening tonight. Now, apparently, both teams are going to be sitting a lot of. This is the last game of the season, regular season, for each of these teams. It's happening tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. This will be the final game of the season for each team. Now, apparently, according to Jets coach Paul Maurice, there's a gentleman's agreement for no hitting, no fighting, keep everybody safe for the first round of the playoffs because they're both going to the playoffs. No matter what happens tonight, it's not going to matter what happens tonight. Both teams are going to they're seated where they are. They both got the opponents they have. But here's my point of contention. And this is what I thought the Leafs and the Jets should have done. What the Leafs and Jets should have done is that this game's going to be in Winnipeg. They should have gone to a couple of random beer league teams, the best beer league teams in the Winnipeg area. Now, I don't know, but with the lockdowns that Canada's been having, if they can play beer league hockey this year, I don't know. I don't know for certain what's going on up in Manitoba. But the Leafs and the Jets should have gone to the best beer league teams and said, hey, would you like to play for us for one day? We'll sign you guys to a one-day contract. We'll give you a 1 day's pay. You come out and play for us so our players don't get hurt. Also our taxi squad players don't get hurt. And you guys play the game of your lives. You get to play as professional for 1 day. That would have been so much fun to watch. Yeah, I remember that Budweiser commercial for a couple of years ago. They went to one random beer league game and they had actual professional announcers. It's a kerfuffle. They had them play. They had them doing they had announcers at a beer league game. And they filled the arena with just random people just coming out to see them play a game in a beer league. I think that would be so much fun if just the NHL would allow the Leafs and the Jets to do that for one game. For this particular game, it's happening tonight. Take 2 beer league teams, sign them to 1 day contracts, pay them that contract, pay them what would be basically a 1 day equivalent for salary, or give them new equipment, give them new jerseys for their teams, something, and let them fulfill a dream for 1 day. That's something I would have done. But this game is kind of just the whole gentleman's agreement is just kind of ridiculous. It affects, and again, I'm watching Rod Peterson this afternoon. He's mentioned that. I'll give credit to him. He said it affects gambling lines. Absolutely, it does. I'm not a gambling man myself. I don't gamble, but yeah, this definitely affects the gambling lines. So yeah, the Leafs Jets game for tonight. Sign some beer league players. Let them fulfill their dream for 1 day. I mean, you're not letting people in the stands there anyway because your whole country shut down. Well, most provinces are. All right. So this past week, I sent a tweet on the on the channel for Around for the Weekend. And this is what the tweet said. I'll share it with you real quick. So what I wrote was meaning the show, we've come to a difficult decision regarding the future of the show. At episode 50, we're closing down. The reason, we're combining the show at Belly Up NCR, which is No Credentials Required, which is my other podcast, which is my podcast, to create a new show called NCR Friday Happy Hour. You can tune in after episode 50. Last call is June 11th. So I'm trying to find ways to condense things in my life. And there's always some difficult choices to make in life. This is one of those difficult decisions, and it was difficult because I've started this particular show during the pandemic. Belly Up Sports, we're trying to find ways to interact with people, trying to find ways to espouse our opinion on a live stream setting. And this was the outlet for me. I came up with the title, I came up with the logo, and the premise of just having a show where I just talk to you, I interact with you while drinking a local beer from a local brewery. But with me trying to keep up, I'm the head of the hockey department here at Belly Up, so trying to keep up with those duties, trying to keep up with my podcast, No Credentials Required. That's now focusing on local sports. I need to be more available to cover local sports, particularly football, hockey, and pro college lacrosse. I had to let something go. And this is actually the second thing I've had to let go of in the last couple months. I was on a podcast, the Downtown Jets podcast, talking about the Jets. I had to give that up because I took the opportunity to come aboard Belly Up Sports with the leadership opportunity. So I figured, why not just condense this show and No Credentials Required into one program, into one live show. Now, with No Credentials Required, the podcast, I'm going to be covering more local material, so local sports. With the Friday show, this was my outlet to cover national news, national headlines, and the news of the week. I'm going to do that now, and No Credentials Required. So I figure I'm going to keep the naming rights for this show. I'm going to keep the premise of the show, but just make it something different. Make it something different. Maybe visit some local breweries, make some film about them. They do some recipes kind of thing. Keep the YouTube channel alive at least. But take this particular program and move it over to No Credentials Required. Make it a live show. So June 11th is the final show for Around for the Weekend. June 18th, I'll be premiering NCR Friday Happy Hour. And it'll give me a chance to have on now No Credentials Required have joined up with not just Belly Up Sports, but also with Godzilla Media, which is a local media conglomerate, or not conglomerate, but we're my friend Tom Gozlowski, who has been on this program a couple times. He heads Godzilla Media naturally because it's his brand. I'm wearing that shirt right now, but he asked me for my podcast to be a part of that, and I'll have some people from Belly Up, I'll have some people from Godzilla Media. We'll drink beer. We'll talk sports for a good hour, so half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, at 7:30 on Fridays. So it'll be a fun opportunity. But I'm sad to let this program, I guess you could say, let this live show go. Let it go, I suppose. But or closing time. Now that song's in my head by Semisonic, but that's in your head too. But it's just the best decision for me was just to basically just combine one thing and make it my own, own it, do something special for Around for the Weekend for different for Around for the Weekend, do some special stuff with that, keep the name rights for that, and we'll see what happens down the road. Maybe I'll bring it back I'll just do, again, brewery tours. I'll do, now that the pandemic is finally ending, hopefully, we'll do some brewery tours, do some local brewery stuff, partnership with local breweries to talk about their beer, hang out with them for a while, drink some beer. Local restaurants, local, anything local. I'd love anything local. This area, New York, the Capital District area, is brimming with more breweries opening up, more restaurants opening up, people willing to step out of bounds. Not so much step out of bounds, but just take a step forward in entrepreneurship and make their brand their own. And that's what I want to do with No Credentials Required, and with Belly Up Sports, and with Godzilla Media. Just make that my own and take a leap of faith. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is number 45. Number 46 will be back at its regular time next week at 7:30. But in the meantime, social media, Twitter at BellyUpAFTW, for Facebook.com, YouTube, hashtag Sports Talk Happy Hour. So for those of you who made it through the entire show, thank you for watching. It went a little bit longer than I expected. Again, I had to feed a cat, and I also had to talk about some sports. So, but thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. We're on for the weekend. Cheers. Weekend's here. The weekend is here. Watch some sports. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.